Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dee Reinhardt with Illinois WorkNet. I have Tammy Stone on the call. We are having our CBOTA webinar right now. Please log into the chat pod with who you are and what agency you're from so that I can track attendance. We have some dashboard numbers, and the dashboard is looking very empty these days, which is a good thing, but it's also something that we still are going to have to pay attention to at least through the middle of the month next month. We have a number of customers who are minimal progress or I can't remember the other reason right now, but they all are going to need to have a 2151A with a conciliation uploaded, and those customers are going to have a conciliation notice sent. If they've already had a conciliation notice sent to them, that needs to be uploaded, and the 2151A still needs to be uploaded. So Albany Park, Asian Human Services, Catholic Charities, Leslie Bates Davis Neighborhood, and North Lawndale all have customers who need to have a conciliation sent along with the upload of the 2151A. We have one enrollment required, and that is from Jane Adams, and if Emily's on the call, it's because of that customer that we were working with yesterday. We will have to enroll that customer just to get them to count into the benchmark. And if you're having a side conversation, you need to mute your phone or computer so that I'm not hearing you in the background.
Hello.
2151A past due.
As the producer of Chicago's largest 5K
Hello.
to end homelessness.
Hello, who's this?
We're grateful to everyone who hopped on a plane, train, car.
All right. And 2151A past due, Jane Adams and Mantracon, those could be things that we were working on to update benchmark, but please just check those to make sure that they are not something that is due that is going to be overdue. Completion status required. DHS is going to be continued to be updating customers. So with the completion status required, those customers need a 2151A and they need to be marked as complete. And then completion information added in the progress page. We also have some SNAP ineligible customers that have been marked. Those need to have their completion information updated and a 2151A uploaded as well. So you're going to have some work to do, and you're going to probably have some work to continue to do on these customers to get them finalized through the middle of March. Moving on. We need to have all yellow rows, which the CBOs are responsible for, cleared by tomorrow end of business. The only rows that may still have activity, hopefully, are the CBO needs to upload a 2151A for your the staffing that you will be doing in March for February's activity. And then the completion status and the DHS eligibility status change. Those are both things that will have some action taking place. I was talking a little bit ago about uploading a 2846G and 3392. Any customer who is exempt cannot be sanctioned, so that reason needs to be no longer appropriate on the no longer appropriate for service on the 2151A to get customers' attention. I'm sorry, to get DHS's attention. Tammy sent out a performance report and an EPIC benchmark activity report.
Correct.
Fritz, I'll have to talk to you after the call. There could have been something that just happened with DHS that caused that to happen. So the performance attainment measures was sent out, was it last week, Tammy?
Yeah, and I just sent it out again to those that have not responded back to us. Basically, we just need you to check your customer list and make sure that everybody's being accounted for. That should be, or if somebody is, being counted that shouldn't be. We need to know that too. But we want to make sure that we're capturing all of the work that you guys have done. So you need to review that and get with Dee. And then if there's any adjustments that need to be made, then we'll work through what those are.
All right, and then supportive services. Tammy, do you want to talk about the supportive services piece?
Yeah, so we talked about this Friday at the meeting. FNS has requested that we provide information on supportive services by customer. This is like in the 11th hour that this has been requested. I told them we do the best that we possibly can. Jonathan did run a support service report for me, and it's pretty bare. So I think one of the things that may be the best way of handling this is I will send you out an Excel document with a list of your customers who have a supportive services step. And then to the best of your ability, if you can just provide information on what they received. You just, like if it was transportation and they received 10 bus tickets for a value of whatever, $100 or whatever, you could just put it on one line with the customer. And, for time reasons, because we are at the end of this project, it may be easier if we just collect it through this Excel spreadsheet. And then that's something that I can see about having an intern help with potentially, getting that information associated in the system with the customers. But if it's going to be a huge issue for you guys to go into these customers and add it directly to them in their system, then this other option would be to provide you with a spreadsheet of the customers and the steps. So if that seems to be more efficient, then maybe we'll need to do that.
The one option that you could do is if you can get a complete total of what the customer's supportive services were, and you have not already uploaded that information to their steps in the iStep, you can add an additional step, which would be on the academic step, and add the other services. And then when you are adding the other services, it can be marked as, I'm not quite sure what agency I'm actually working out of here, but dollar services for this value, maybe it was $975 total. Then it would be number of times offered at this cost once, and save. And then down in the notes, you would put this offered transportation, work boots, and drug test for this customer. That will let you put everything all in one step, and it should pull into that report for the Tammy needs.
Correct. So, and I know, and I feel bad, like I said, because this is in the 11th hour, and we're asking you guys to do this, but to the best of your ability, because the evaluation team's looking at this to determine if supportive services had a significant impact on a customer's ability to, get training, get placement, and into a sustainable job. So I understand their rationale for that. Unfortunately, we didn't require that in the beginning, and woulda, shoulda, coulda, we would have done that differently. But we want to try and capture this information as best we can.
All right, so I think I answered Judith's question. Eric asked, has the entered higher education totals not been included on the performance report? Tammy, did you do that yet?
It was entered based upon when I ran that report. So if you've changed anything on that, it's not reflected. But it will be reflected, when we run these numbers again. So because I know there's quite a few of you that probably haven't exited customers yet because you're waiting till the end and you're going to exit them as enrolled in or entered higher education. So those will be reflected when you do that.
Okay, I know that Autumn at Mantricon was entering the IWDS sheet from the enrolled into an ITA or whatever it was. So Eric, I'm gonna try and what did you use? If you want to type that into the chat pod, what did you use to enter verification for entered into higher education? Copy of college schedule. Okay. Okay. Krishina, I'm not quite sure what you typed those numbers into the chat pod for. So if you can put that in there, that would be great. And then Frank is asking, is there going to be an exit item to the escape? Oh, Eric, you're funny. Is there going to be is there going to be an exit item for individuals being referred back to DHS? And Tammy, that's a question.
Well, the one that we were talking about was what Jonathan was programming, which was...
And that got, I'm going to show everybody that in a minute.
Yeah, program ended. So if you still have customers that have not received a job or not continuing on in education, hopefully they've completed any type of training they're doing with you, because that was part of, you know, the deal we have to have them done. And you're still doing like job search, job placement with you, then you're going to be marking those as program ended, and Dee's going to show you how to do that. So you'll mark them how Dee's going to express here. But those are the individuals that probably, you know, have gone through training, and you're trying to get them placed with employment. Now, if they're placed with employment, then that you need to document that, and then we can track retention through the end of the course too. But as I said in the meeting Friday, if you are able, you know, they're able to get a job, say within the next week or two, and you're still facilitating that even though the grant's over, you can still document that. You can document employment and retention through the closeout process, up until the end of the closeout.
Bill, yes, supportive services can be submitted today. Hopefully they're all submitted by tomorrow. March 1st at the latest, which is Friday. So hopefully you've got all of that data pulled from your fiscal department, and you just need to check to see if you have supportive service dollars added to a customer's step on at least one of the steps. You may have gotten them all, but just double check your customer roles. Okay, so now we were talking about the grant program ended option that Frank asked about, and this was activated today. So on a step, if you have a step that is started, opened, but has not been completed, you can go into the pencil, edit the pencil, or click the pencil to edit. And then under the reasons for the status, there is a new answer, a new option called Grant Program Ended. You would select that on the customer steps and click Save, and the date should give you the date there. Or I'm sorry, it won't give you a date, but we all know that the grant program ended today. On the customer's progress page, you will also need to update that. You can do it today or tomorrow, Kelsey. Are you talking for this step or for the supportive services? Okay. If you think that there is a chance that you will enroll them into higher education, or if they will get a job, leave it open until you find out yes or no. But if you know for sure that they're not going to be moving forward with anything, then you can use these options to clean this up. Under the completion information, the reason is did not complete, and the selection is grant program ended, and you would put today's date and then update. And I've already done this particular customer, so I'm not going to update it again. And then you would upload a 2151A marked as complete in those boxes, and I'll show you what it says on the document. So I just went down here and marked completed, and I went to the third page and wrote on there grant program ended. If you want to add anything else, you can. And then upload the document, copy and paste that grant program ended, put it in the note when you do the upload. So if you're going to upload the form, put the grant program ended here under the description, and then that should be good. It then reports the customers to the enrolled dashboard in the row that says dropped out of program, grant program ended. And I was working on Huffy Bike. And if I click on this number 2 here, it's showing me Huffy Bike as where my customer has landed. So you can check that to make sure that it's all done. So this should basically be done for all people who are still requiring 2151As, right? Yes. And if you want to wait and do these on March 1st, then that would do your 2151A for the month of March, or for the February staffing that you need to do. Is that okay with you, Tammy?
Yeah, that's fine. I do have one question though. So if they have a customer that's continuing on in education, you wouldn't want to put them grant program complete because you're going to exit them as continuing in training. So on the 2151,
Right.
they still do the complete. Is that right though?
They would still do the 2151A as complete. But then the reason for those customers that are moving on to higher education would be completed and continuing higher education outside of EPIC. And in this situation, higher education does not necessarily mean college. It just means that they're not going to be getting paid for by EPIC any longer. They might be getting paid for by WIOA or some other fund.
Or they could be continuing in community college through a Pell Grant or whatever, but they have a next step, and it's an educational component.
Right. So to talk about Kendrea's question about, too many people are typing too much. Okay, so what about those in retention? In retention, their completion information is going to be completed hired by employer, so that completion information is the same. The retention piece on the 2151 would continue as normal, but you are going to have to do, Tammy, they've got until April to get the...
April 28th is when the closeouts are due.
I'm sorry, what?
April 28th is when the closeouts are due.
So April 28th is a Sunday.
Well, let me take a look here. On the report deliverable schedule. Okay, 29th. So it's April 29th, the final financial closeout and the final programmatic closeout reports are due.
All right. So
and then you also have one due April 1st, which is going to cover your January and February period.
All right. So then for people to get retention counted, you need those submitted by the 26th?
Yeah.
Or by the 25th?
I would say yes. You need to have this information in the system, a couple days prior to closeouts if you want them to be counted.
All right. So if you want your retention or anything to count, it needs to be entered by April 25th. I will make sure that that is in the minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So let me get to some more of these questions here.
And keep in mind that, we're going to be tracking this and the evaluation team long past this program. So we'll be, looking at other sources too. So this is just basically to make sure that you have the revenue for your expenditures, which most of you guys are in good shape on that.
Okay. Let's make that bold, and we're going to highlight it. All right. Okay, so grant program ended. It's basically only for customers that are not going anywhere and didn't obtain a job or have no hope of obtaining a job. Then we have retention. Kendrea, did I answer your question? And then Anila asked, how about those that are currently in EPIC vocational training and will finish in a month? Anila, that would fall under the point that we just made about the April 25th date. You can complete them by April 25th. You cannot expend any more money on them after tomorrow.
Correct.
Kelsey is saying, so someone who is continuing the training program but isn't enrolling in another workforce program can be continuing higher education. Yes.
Just keep in mind that you cannot spend any more money on these individuals after tomorrow because the grant ends tomorrow. So any of these have to be, obligated prior to. So, if you have the obligation for the training, which it sounds like probably most of you do, you've already paid for the training and it's just a matter of them finishing up, and that's fine.
But that also means no more supportive services.
Correct.
Technically no more of your time, but we know how that works. All right, so I think that I got everybody's question. So Frank, did that answer what you wanted to know? And no more work experience dollars. Can they obligate them, Tammy?
No more work experience at the end of this month. No.
Okay, so now Autumn is saying graduation is in May. That you won't get completion. You won't get completion of training because it's in May. And they won't get the certification credit because it's in May. Everything has to be entered by April 25th, Autumn.
But I anticipate that these people are co-enrolled, so you would count them as enrolled in higher education. So you complete them and count them as enrolled in higher education.
So you get the perk for that.
Right.
All right. No more transportation. So if you want to give them, if you've got room in your budget and if the customer hasn't exceeded their $1,500, if you want to give them a 30-day, it's got to be accounted for by tomorrow.
It has to be accounted for by tomorrow.
That's what I just said.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that was a question. Only funds that have been obligated, because that transportation, you can't give them a 30-day bus pass that goes into March, because it occurs afterwards. The training was in cases where the training happens, it's an obligation prior to the end of this grant period.
Oh, so they can't give them a 30-day bus card tomorrow that would cover March?
No.
Okay. So strike that comment. Okay. Autumn says, should I delete all the school information I added? Is that for those customers that'll graduate in May? So, Tammy, should she delete all the school information?
Let me see what her question is here. What school information was added, I guess, is my question.
It's for, yes, because you had added all the certifications. You need to delete all of those.
were they certifications they have not received yet? Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, we shouldn't be, adding the certifications until they're actually received. I mean, this is going to be open, so if you want to add those later on, by all means, feel free, because that'll be stuff that we can continue to look at. But once we close the grants, the close based upon where we're at.
You can, Autumn, you can leave what school they're going to in the program and all that kind of good stuff, but just take out the credential. Then that way, that's not there. You can add it after the fact, though, like Tammy just said.
Right. And we have a question on the training. And the training is similar to like with the SNAP ENT, because you remember when these people would lose their SNAP benefits, we weren't able to serve them any longer. But if the obligation was made, then they could continue in a training program. This is the same thing. Like if you paid for them to go to a community college for the semester, and that obligation was required in January, and they're not going to graduate till May, they can continue to stay in that because you've already paid for that. That's already an expense that you've paid for. If they dropped out, prior to a date, then you can go back and recoup that. Like if there's usually dates if they drop out that you can get that money reimbursed. I know we're past all of that with all of this. So any obligations that have been made for education that's already been paid, they can continue on with that education past the end of the grant term because it's already paid for. So it's like I said, just similar to community college. You've already made that obligation in January or February, and they can continue with that through the end. It's just a thing that we're not going to be capturing is once these grants are closed, because you guys are being paid out of it any longer. We're not going to be capturing their completion of education and their credentials necessarily, unless you guys want to do that out of the kindness of your hearts and put it in the EPIC system, because I know the evaluation team will still be using the system, once this is done, to look at information. Does that make sense?
I don't see anybody typing, so I guess it does. Okay, Tammy, cost data workbook.
Oh, yay, our favorite thing. So yeah, those just went out, the last one. They are due March 28th, and Kelly's going to be really on us because this, they got to get their information together too. So I told her I would, work with her too to make sure we're getting this data. She sent out a bunch of corrections or questions that she had just not too long ago too on old workbooks. So she had I think it was the second and third quarter of 2018 that she sent out some questions on. So please get back with her, reconcile any of those questions that she has, and then get these final workbooks done and submitted by March 28th. Now remember, these workbooks are only for costs associated with the treatment group. So any new cohort customers should not be included in that. And also, you should not include any closeout costs associated with this. So those need to be removed. So it just needs to be based upon treatment group individuals and no closeout or no new cohort customers.
All right.
Anybody have any questions on that? I know this was always a fun one for especially your fiscal staff. The program staff, you guys probably didn't have to worry about it as much, but the fiscal staff, I know, really are not going to miss this.
All right. I don't see anybody typing anything. I'm going to unmute. So if you have any questions that you want to ask, please ask them now.
And if you want me to, which I will do this, I could do it for everybody, but if you really are interested in getting the Excel list of customers that have support service steps, type in that you want me to send that to you in the chat pod.
I think you should send it to everybody.
Everybody. Okay. And I can do that. I will send it. So that way you have a snapshot of who's got these services. And like I said, once again, you can enter one service like the walkthrough. If you want to go in and enter on all of services, I mean, that's pretty aggressive, but that's up to you. Or, like I said, I will even take it on this Excel spreadsheet. So if you can enter the information by each customer in the Excel spreadsheet, that would meet my needs also.
All right. Okay, so Tammy's going to get that out to everybody. When do you think you might be able to do that?
I'm going to work on it after this call, and then it'll be today and tomorrow morning. You'll have those.
Okay, so
You know, and some other things too, just as a reminder, payroll uploads. You know, if you have any of those still lingering, you know, make sure you're getting those done. And as Dee said, you just make sure you're getting all of the customer services closed and then the customers closed.
and just a reminder, if you have not already checked that Excel spreadsheet that we sent out with the benchmark report, you need to get that done because I need to be able to verify that things are happening and what you need to fix on those. And I don't want you guys working on this grant way into May.
Exactly.
All right, so if I don't see anybody else typing, does anybody have a question that they need to ask over the air?
Hi, yes. This just a quick question, and I apologize if it was mentioned earlier.
Who is this? Who is this?
I'm sorry, this is Lori with Phalanx.
Okay.
For personnel, if we have staffings that are going into March, past March 15th, how should we handle personnel costs?
And this is something that we're going to send out in this. I've got a request in from our fiscal office, but I would anticipate that this is going to be an obligation to the grant. So you need to identify that as an obligation.
Okay.
To the grant. So it'd be handled just like when you're doing your closeout. When you do your closeouts, you have staff costs associated with that.
Yes.
So you would handle it, because this is part of the closeout process of this grant too, because it's the last, you know, we're finishing up all of the stuff for closing out this grant. So you need to handle it the same way you handle your closeout process and how you handle the costs associated with that.
And it's okay to incur this cost after February 28th, or does it need to be logged by February 28th, even though it's happening in March?
I'm going to just verify this. Like I said, I have an email to my fiscal staff to make sure. But yeah, I anticipate that it's going to be okay because it's part of the closeout costs associated with this grant.
Okay. And how long into March? Is there a cutoff?
Well, your closeouts are due April 29th. So any costs associated with closing out the grant.
We're good. Okay. Thank you.
You want to say April 25th, Tammy?
Yeah, I mean, you just say it's through the closeout process. I mean, because some people are going to close their grants out. You know, you can close your grant out at any point when you guys are done. You don't have to wait until the final report's due. And there is a report due that's April 1st, that is encompasses January and February. So if you've got all of your ducks in a row and you're ready to close out April 1st, you could just send that report in and mark it as a final report, and then I can close your grant out.
Okay.
As of then. So, I mean, you don't have to wait until the 29th. As soon as you guys have everything done, you can send in that final closeout report, and then we can close it out.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tammy.
You're welcome.
So there's a quarterly report due April 1st?
April 1st. And that's a project status report and financial status report. And the trial balance is required, which is a cumulative trial balance, is required as your supporting documentation for your financial status report.
Okay. Did I get everybody's question in the questions? I think I did. All right. All right. If there's nothing else, we will get these notes uploaded to the training materials page so that you can have them right away. And we will be happy to answer any of the other questions. Tammy, do you anticipate having another webinar in March at all?
It's not on the schedule. we'll let you know if we need it, if there's anything last minute stuff that we need to do. But at this point, we don't have one on the schedule. So let's just leave it open for now.
But if we do, it would be March 13th.
Correct.
All right.
And at that point, like I said, some of it will depend upon if there's still weird stuff in the dashboard, that needs to be addressed, or anything along those lines.
All right. And I will be in touch with people prior to that to get things cleaned up if there are things that need to be cleaned up. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of
Thank you,
your day.
everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.